Thank you everyone for being here on another live of mine. And this live is going to be about the backlash that the world will go through when their violence cannot work out as smoothly as they expected. Now, for those out here, let me know in the live chat you're here, please. Thank you very much. Curly Girl, thank you for being here. Please let me know when you're here, please. Smire, thank you for being here. Also, Chuba, thank you for being here again. All right. So, who else is here? Let me see. John, thank you for being here. Good to see you again. Now, I want to keep you up long. We're going to begin with the class immediately. Terry, thank you for being here also. What is the backlash I'm talking about in the title of this live stream? Very simple. Anytime the world, or you can call it society, insists on having their way and it backfires, that's the backlash. Carlos, thank you for being here. So, example, there is a guy who refuses to pay rent, okay? And then the landlord thinks, you know what? He doesn't want to pay rent. I'm going to call the cops to kick him out. So it's been 4 months since he didn't pay rent. So the cops think, okay, you have a point, kick him out. And the bailiff also comes to gather some of his stuff for the payment of the rent of the past 4 months. But when they arrive, they see that the place is completely empty. Yesterday, the place was still full. Today, suddenly the whole place is empty. Now, what happens now is that the police arrives, the bailiff arrives, but it's completely empty. There's nobody to kick out. What happened here? This individual managed to stay there for 4 months for free without paying rent, and he got away with it. What will this do to the reputation of that landlord? Let me know in the live chat. Hey, Joanna, thanks for being here. Abu, thanks for being here also. What about the example I gave? What will happen to the reputation of that landlord? Let me know in the live chat. I'll wait for your answer. Okay, Curly Girl says public or his tenant lose respect for him. Well, respect's a worldly thing, but okay, I get what you're saying. What about the rest? Carlos says others would like to abuse him also. They think he's neglecting his properties and don't take him serious. Someone else said push over. Well, just gave Nicole, I gave an example of a landlord where the tenant who owed 4 months of rent. So at some point, the landlord thought going to call the police and the bailiff to kick this guy out. When the police and bailiff arrived, the place was completely empty. The tenant was long gone. So I asked, what would be the consequences for the tenants, for the landlord's reputation? And indeed, I got some good answers. The reputation of the landlord will go down. But here's another thing about the story that doesn't add up. How could that tenant move out his stuff within a few hours just like that, and nobody's noticed him. That means that the other tenants around are also in on it because others should have seen him moving out very swiftly. So in this case, the landlord feels cheated upon, and he was cheated upon indeed. I was talking about the landlord, not about the tenant, Nicole. But okay. So in this case, let's say this landlord has children that he wants to have authority upon, and the children find out about this that happened to their dad. What do you think is going to happen to how they view their father? Let me know in the live chat. What will happen to how his children view him if his children figure out what just happened to him? Let me know in the live chat. Ismir says, as a failure, what does the rest say? I'll give you a minute to answer. What's going? Yes, I have some good answers. Joanna said, disappoint in him. Colin said he appears weak. John says weak. Colin says he appears weak and as victim of his family. And Sundarai said that no nonce approach he always gave is only towards the children, not towards others. The children will not look kindly on them, that's true. And people will not believe the landlords. Now, why did I make up this example about a tenant not paying rent but able to live for free and get away with it? Because that's how believers are in this world. The world demands recognition from us and the right to control and sabotage us, like we do with all people. But with us, because we walk in the power, we manage to live freely without the charges of the world. So when the world or society escalates and they begin to take action against us with persecution and retaliation, hey, they're too late. We're steps ahead of them. And what happens then? There's a backlash on society. Society exposes itself for the narcissistic construct it really is. That is what I'm aiming at. And here's the thing. Uh, the society is just a narcissistic construct. So society cannot own anything because society is not a living being, nor a living creature. And here's the thing, the earth is the Lord's anyway, so nobody is entitled to withhold sunlight, water, and no earth resources from you and force you to pay for them. Nobody is entitled to do that. And that's what the world is doing. So the world is illegitimate anyway. So you have an illegitimate manager of the earth, named the world, demanding payment from us in a form of exhausting our lives. And when we don't allow that to happen, it escalates. But hey, with believers, they realize very quickly, oh, it's not going to happen. So imagine this, okay? You have someone who's making music at home in his basement. And nobody wants to listen to his music, and what the guy heck is this guy? But this guy now uses the crease and decorations, and people from afar feel the urge to listen to his music, and they purchase music. Within a year, this guy has earned over $100,000, and now his music is played on various radio stations all over the country. Okay, what do you think is going to happen to all the people who kind of look down on this guy and who actually talk bad about him behind his back? What is going to happen to all those people? Let me know in the live chat. Okay, I got an answer from Chuba. What about the rest of you? What do you think? Most of you keep mentioning shame, shame, shame. Now, here's the thing. That guy now has a whole audience worldwide listening to him. What about all those people who are complaining and murmuring about him? What do they have? So whenever it comes to the light that they were murmuring, complaining about him while he was making music, how's that going to make them look like to the rest of the world? Let me know in the live chat. How's it going to make them look like when they kept insisting he was nothing, and now against their will he has more influence and more relevancy than they have in their face without them even being able to do anything about it? So what happens now, just like with the example I gave in the beginning of this live stream, you have a landlord who has a claim. Namely, you have to pay. You don't give him what he wants to take action against you. But when he comes to take action against you, the action fails because he can't harm you, he can't do anything to you. So he can't get his vindication because, hey, you're gone. So where is it going to, how is it going to charge you for the rent? What's going to take away from you because you couldn't pay rent? What happens with his claim for rent? It's gone. You bypassed him. The same way it is with society. Anytime you bypass or you outsmart their restrictions, they are the ones looking bad. And again, just like with the landlord, if the landlord has children, an example of the landlord I gave in the beginning of this live stream, if the landlord has children, the children will lose honor for him. The children will say, Dad, you always have this no nonsense attitude towards us, but you have a guy who lived for 4 months in your in your apartment and you didn't do anything about it. He just left and without ever paying. But with us, you can't. We want to play. You want to play like you're the man. So his relationship with his children will suffer. His relationship with his wife will suffer. How people look at him will suffer. So he is losing because that tenant got away. Now listen to what I'm saying here. Anytime you, as a believer, you get away from the toxic restrictions of the world, there's a backlash happening to the world around you. And this is something that often happens in the world, where people think they can sabotage you because they think they have the leverage, but then they figure out the hard way, ooh, you had a hidden leverage you were not aware about. And now they've already taken action against you, they've already made up their mind about you, and now it backfires on them. And now they're the ones looking stupid, and no matter what happens, reality is in the past they took action against you. And now they need to account for it, but they can't. So this uncomfortable fact is going to come up anytime they move ahead in life. So now they need to deal with that, and they don't want to. So they will develop bitter resentment against you for not allowing them to sabotage you. Joe, you're telling the truth. When they spin around and exhaust, the escalation will drain itself much quicker, and there will be less collateral damage. That's why I uh, told you guys to do that. That is why when you look at society very well, people will avoid you if they think you have a leverage they can't sabotage. When people have the idea, oh, you have more money, you have a lot of money, or you have influence, or you have spiritual strength, when people realize that you have a leverage, often they avoid you. They do because they deep down inside just want to be able to discard you whenever they see fit. But if you have a leverage, you can't just discard you and get away with it. When they discard you, it will backfire on them, and they don't want to have people around them that they can't discard whenever they want. So when you have a leverage, they move distance themselves from you. And here's the thing. That's why when people discard you and later things are going better with you and things are going worse with them, they try to hoover you and come back to you. Why? Because they want to kill you so there's no evidence of their humiliation. If they discard you because they think they're better off without you, but they end up worse after discarding you and you things end up better with you, everyone's going to say, you discarded Joey thinking you cut Joey off, thinking Joey was annoying and all of that, but hey, you're worse off now. You're going through stuff. Joey is completely at ease. So you were the toxic one. You were the bad one over there, and they don't want this evidence to be seen. So when they discard you, and they're the one things going worse with them, and things going better with you, they will seek. They will develop homicidal urges to murder you. I'm telling you, there's nothing that haunts and bothers uh, worldlings more than discarding someone and ends up better with the one they discarded. When they discard you and you end up being better off and they end up being worse off, that's a big nightmare they cannot cope with. There was one time on Reddit. Well, you shouldn't take everything serious you read on Reddit because anyone can put something on Reddit. But there was a story on Reddit of this woman who's now somewhere in her mid 30s. When she was in her 20s, she was married to a guy. The guy had his own business, but the business was struggling. And eventually, the guy's mother died, and the business went bankrupt at the same time. So he went through a depression. The woman left him back then, divorced him. Now, years later, the guy has another business and he's earning a lot of money and he's married, happily married to someone else, and she is single, miserable, and a lot of guys ran through her sexually over and over again. Nobody stayed with her. And now on Reddit, she was complaining about that she left the guy, but he was better off than her. She was looking sympathy from other people for the condition she was in. And the people that were commenting on the Reddit post were saying, ma'am, you were the one that left him when he needed you the most, right? So you're the one that did wrong, first of all. Secondly, you left him. So it's none of your concern with whom he gets afterwards. You decided to leave him because you thought you were better off without him. Now you left him. That's what you did. So it's your responsibility to look for someone better. You only downgraded. That's on you. He did the right thing by moving on with his life, and now you're upset, and now you want others to have sympathy for you. Hey, but that's how the world is. When they thought they could easily sabotage you and just discard you, but realize it can't, and now things are haunting them, they will develop homicidal urges. I'm telling you. But just like that woman on Reddit, that's how society is. Society treats you a certain way at your expense, and when you survive and things go well with you, now they're embarrassed. Now they're ashamed, and they're going to blame it on you. Now they're throwing tantrums, complaining, and now they want to take action against you as if you're the guilty one. And when that fails, they will escalate on anyone around them. Yes, similar to Saul going after David. And listen, saints, some of the people that discarded you are now facing mental breakdowns because they realize that, ooh, I discarded Chuba. Ooh, I discarded this African guy because he's a black guy, so I didn't expect anything good come from him. But look at this. Chuba is doing well. He's economically relevant. He has political influence. And look at me. I'm stuck having to go to my work from 9 to 5, and nobody even bothers to my opinion. And it's really keeping them awake at night. It's causing eating disorders. It's causing um, anger attacks, panic attacks. They're now mentally decomposing because you're better off after they discarded you. If someone is um, a psychopath and you discard them, and psychopath falls apart, everyone will see, you will say that it's the right thing you've done because that individual is dangerous. After you left, they fell apart. But here's the thing: they're the ones that discard you, and they're the ones that things go worse, or they're the ones ending worse off you and are better. That's not going to look good at all. They can never explain that away. And that is something that the world faces over and over again. So you think that the people that discarded you are just going through life without any care while you are left alone, left behind with the wounds. That's not true. That's what they want you to think. But the opposite is true. Because listen, this is how it works. When someone puts a negative charge on you spiritually, and let's say now you overcome that negative charge will automatically flow back to the ones that installed it. But what happens now when the negative charge flows back, instead of them giving up, they keep holding on to that charge against you. They keep sending another charge. So they keep sending out charges against you, and they keep coming back anytime you move forward in life. So they keep on investing on something that keeps backfiring on them. So when you look at the situation, it's very ridiculous. They put a negative charge on you, which they had no business doing, and now because you survived, it flowed back towards them, and they had issues in their circumstances. Instead of realizing, you know what, we need to repent, we need to change and become better human beings, they became upset that had to deal with the consequences of what they've done to you. Now they're going to develop more charge against you by raging and psychic attacks, and because you survived and you continue with life, now things keep on backfiring. So they keep on firing shots at you, they keep coming back to them in multiple ways. But then they blame you for it. So anyone who actually examines the situation will say, you guys are crazy. You guys are out of your mind. You guys keep yourself in a situation where things keep on backfiring just to play the victim. And you expect us to give you sympathy? And here's the best part. You don't wish any harm on anyone. You forgave them for what they did. You process it and you moved on. But they insist on validating their own will at all costs. So they demand you to perish and die so they don't have to face consequences for their will. But because you survived, now it's a backlash. And now when they try to uh, pull you back in the negative and it fails, it will backfire again. So they end up causing a lot of self-harm while attempting to harm you. Why do they want to harm you? Because they dehumanize you to preserve their own reputation and preserve their own stability. Because their mental and emotional stability relies on them not being seen for what they really are, namely cowards who don't want to face anything in life. So they rely on their reputation, and this reputation needs to be guarded at all costs. Listen, when you forgive people, you're showing that you value peace and safety above um, their misery. When you value peace and safety above their misery, you actually refuse their misery. And by you refusing their misery, they get more upset. Some people will attack you just to get you just as bitter as they are. Some people will attack you just to hinder your peace and ease. because they are in frustration, they're in anxiety, and they don't want you to be in it too. Listen, whether they want to admit what they've done wrong or not doesn't matter. The moment you forgive and you process it, you've made a statement that will last. They don't want to process nor face anything. They just want to flee and escalate. That's the only thing they want. So for them to flee and escalate without being exposed, they need to put you in negative daylight. They need to think bad about you and portray you as this bad individual so that they don't have to face backlash for what they've done to you. Look, if a psychopath jumps out of the bushes on you, tearing apart your clothes, trying to rape you, and you kick at them and beat them up and run away, nobody's going to blame you for it because they will say that guy should have never waited for you in the bushes and jumped on you to rape you. But if someone is just walking down the streets and you get in your car trying to hit them with your car while they were posed no threat to you at all, or when you just look for a fight with someone, nobody's going to excuse that. People don't say, what the F is wrong with you? So there's the thing. They chose to discard you. They chose to devalue you. They chose to um, put you in a negative daylight. They chose to not value your value, but now they need to cover up what they've done. So they need to keep you in a negative daylight. They need to have other people to agree with them so that they are not, so that people don't ask them the hard questions. There's the thing. When you forgive and process, what can people charge you with then? Absolutely nothing. So every charge is going back. And here's the thing. Some people joined smear campaigns against you. You never knew those people. They just heard bad talk about you and they agreed with the bad talk. And now they're facing backlash too, which is very dumb of them to join bad talks about you. And now, because they don't want to face themselves, how dumb it was to join a bad talk about someone, now they want action against you too. And they end up self-harming also because things keep on coming back. Listen, even if you did something wrong and they got upset, they should face what you've done to them, process it, and move on in peace. That's the thing they should do. If you were the one that did something wrong to them, then it should have been easy for them to confront you with it. But there's the thing. Why is it that they can never confront you about why they're upset with you? Because there is no receipt that can justify their attitude towards you. There is none. They're just negatively charged because they don't want to face life. And now to discharge that negative tension, they need an outlet for it. So they need to fake a fight with you, to blame you, so they can have an excuse to unload the tension that otherwise would haunt them. That's what's going on. If they are so bitter against you because you didn't validate their expectations, why do they invest all that bitterness against the corrupt politicians, against the wizards, against the child molesters, against the terrorists, against the people that insist on afflicting the human community? Why aren't they investing all that anger and all that bitterness against those who actually mean harm? Why are they so obsessed with you? Why are they if they discarded you, why are they so obsessed with discarding you? Why do they keep ignoring you? Why do they keep avoiding you? Why do they keep doing that? I'm telling you why. Because it had nothing to do with you. They just needed an excuse to discharge their own pollution. That's it. Look, if you were a Baphomet terrorist, if you were a serial killer or a serial child molester or whatever, if you were some very grievous time bomb for the community, then I can understand that they discarded you and they're upset with you. But even then, they should process it so they're not changed by the wrong you've done so they can move on. So even if you were wrong at some point, they're still wrong for how they relate to you. And here's the thing: the highest crime you commit to them is not giving in to their restrictions. That's it. You were not a you were not an exploding reprobate on them. You were not. Because if you were an exploding reprobate, you wouldn't even be here now listening to this live stream. Okay? So there are exploding reprobates out there who go around freely dumping harm on the community. Why aren't they becoming as bitter as they are upon those people as they are against you? Why are they so obsessed with taking action against you and not against the serial killers, serial child molesters, and serial liars in the government? Because it was never about anything wrong you've done. It was all about them not wanting to face life, and now they want an outlet for their pollution. That's it. Listen, ignoring people doesn't work. If the sun is shining out there and you ignore it, well, you can ignore it, but the sun is still shining. If it's raining out there and you ignore it, you're still getting wet. Now, if you're driving a car while it's raining very hard, you may get into a car accident. So ignoring reality does not work. So them ignoring you is just them showing that they're not willing to face life. In life, you have to be practical and flexible with other people. You have to adapt your expectations to what's going on. The fact they're not willing to do that shows that's a defect on their part, and that's the fact they don't want to face. And this effect causes friction and pollution in their mind and in their emotions. And it's this pollution that they want to dump somewhere. That's what it's all about. That is what it's all about. The number one conflict they have is that they don't want to face life. The conflict they have is that they don't want to face life. In life, you have to accept the challenges and face the issues so you can process things and develop. That's life. Even if the fall of man would have never happened and we all would be in a perfect state, there would still be the challenge of managing the earth together. So life, however you look at it, contains natural challenges. Natural challenges are part of life. Now, because we are in a fallen state, you now have issues that afflict us. But even if life would be in a perfect state, it would still be natural challenges. These people don't even want natural challenges. So they are the toxic ones because they don't want to embrace life. Eddie Johnson, thanks for being here. You're the moderator, and everyone knows any troll that comes here, Eddie Johnson is on your behind. You're out of here. Praise the Lord. So look, you cannot ignore the natural challenges that comes with life and expect to be sane. You cannot remain sane when you avoid the natural challenges of life. Okay? You cannot. Human sexual activity is a natural challenge. You can't not be vulnerable and yet be involved in sexual activity. That's impossible. You have to be vulnerable towards your sex partner. But a lot of people don't even want to be vulnerable. So they end up wanting to use sex spells on others to use force on other people. That's why you have so much violence in sexual relationships in the world. So they avoid the natural challenge of being vulnerable to their sex partner, and but by doing that, they're causing pollution. Now you have sexual violence going on. You get it? So why not just embrace the natural challenge of being vulnerable? You cannot avoid the natural challenges of life and remain sane in your head. Cannot happen. Now, there are issues, though, to the fall of man that afflict us. I can understand that you want to avoid issues, but you cannot avoid natural challenges. And a lot of them don't even see the difference between a natural challenge and issues. So they develop issues because they avoid the natural challenges of life. Okay? John Wonder, thank you very much for the super chat donations. Very much appreciated. So, them not wanting to face life and live it, that's the conflict they have. That's not on you. You faced life after you were discarded, after you were wounded, and realized I need to move on. I can't remain at this forever. You faced life. You embrace the challenge, and you are processing issues. They are not. So who is the foolish one over here? Not you. Who's the dumb one over here? Not you. Who's the one insisting in avoiding life, even though it's obvious that avoiding life will bring for trouble? They're the ones doing it. Who's the one looking for an outlet for the pollution they bring forth by their own neglect towards life? They are. And who's the one blaming blaming their victims for not tolerating uh, their pollution? They are. And who is the one facing backlash after backlash when all their resentment backfires? They are. And who keeps holding on to that resentment while knowing full well it backfires? They are. So who's the one responsible for them remaining in that bad condition? They are. They are. Not you. You moved on. They discarded you. They did you dirty. You forgave them. You processed it. You moved on. So why are they so obsessed with you? Why do they insist so much against you? Because they have no interest in living at all. But they can't stand you living. That's what's going on. Those same people who insist on having issues against you, they submit themselves to pagan corporations where they're exhausted from 9 to 5 for 40 years long. They let their employers exhaust them and control them from 9 to 5, but they don't develop resentment against that. No, but they do develop resentment against you. What's going on? An issue is pollution that afflicts us due to the fall of men, like sickness, disease, mental disorders, or the fact alone that we have mortal bodies. Sometimes people die, and that's why we need to process that they pass away. Those are issues. Or the fact that there's negative tension and accidents happen, those are issues. Or the fact that a men abandoned families, those are issues. A natural challenge is just something you need to get used to because it's part of life. That's a natural challenge. So I see a lot. Do you understand the difference now between a challenge and an issue? Let me know in the live chat. Curly Girl, thank you well for your super. Thank you very much for your super chat donation. It's very much appreciated. Look, I understand what Justin is saying. In this lifetime, you can't be vulnerable towards everyone. Unfortunately, you can't. Well, you're designed to be vulnerable anyway, but in this lifetime, you can't be it with everyone because they will seek to take advantage of you. That's an issue we face, that we have creeps around who want to take advantage of your vulnerability. But this issue is something we process, and we process it by acknowledging that we can't change those people, but we do know that we can overrule them and bypass them when we walk by faith. That is what we do. So we process the issues that afflict us as a species. That's what we believers do. We don't run away from issues and develop more issues and then look for victims to escalate upon. So you have issues in life because of the fall of man, because of the fall of Adam, diseases, sicknesses, mental disorders, negative consequences of other people's bad behavior, um, of course, people pass away because we have a mortal body, so we have to process that. So those are issues. Then you have natural challenges. Those are part of life. For example, you have to be vulnerable when it comes to sexual activity. You have to be flexible when it comes to raising children. You have to be flexible in how to relate with other people. You have to realize that sometimes things won't go your way. Those are natural challenges. And the natural challenges show you that you are not in control and that you cannot control. You have to manage things in life, but you can't be in control. Okay? And the natural challenges show you that you need the Heavenly Father's guidance. So, the fallen mind of fallen mankind wants to avoid all challenges in life, and because of that, they bring forth pollution and they develop unnecessary issues. And then they want to just they want to discard the the pollution that comes from those issues on victims. That's what the world is. That's what society is. And they want people to be available as their targets. That's it. What is being impatient? Impatient, when you're impatient, you simply don't want to be flexible and deal with challenges in life. That's it. If people came from an abusive household and are slow in their thinking, you can't expect them to process things very quickly. If you keep expecting that, you're the one with the issue because you don't want to be flexible and realistic about the situation. Most of the time, when people are stressed out and they are having a bad time, it's simply them avoiding the natural challenges of life. Most of the anxiety that people experience comes from avoiding the natural challenges of life. That's it. That is why people join cults. That's why people join cults. Because in a cult, everyone is controlled through fear and you won't face any challenges. That's why people want to join cults. Because in a cult, you kind of become part of someone else's personal heaven. We want personal heavens in which we won't face any challenges. And that is not God's will. Listen, issues will afflict everyone on the earth due to the fall of men. Okay? Challenges are things we all need to face and go through. So none of them are personal, they're all collective. But when it comes to issues, we run away from them so we don't have to process them and find a way to deal with them. And when it comes to challenges, we tend to avoid them because we want to have ease all the time. That is the effect of the fallen mind. But at the same time, people in the fallen mindset do want the benefits. So the benefits they get by exploiting others. So now you understand why the Heavenly Father is not putting you in an environment where everything is at ease. Because you are designed, together with the rest of redeemed mankind, to manage the affairs of the earth, which includes all the issues that afflicts fallen mankind. So why would God put you on an uninhabited island on the Pacific, where you're not bothered by anything, while it's in your design to be operative on the earth? So understand this: people that join cults, not all of them are narcissistic people. Some of them were just wounded people that were tricked into a cult. So a lot of cult members were tricked into the cult. They're not even aware they've been tricked. But the overwhelming majority of cult members, they are there because they want to avoid life. That's it. And that's why those Babylon churches or pagan churches, as I call them, that's why they're so filled with people every Sunday. because the majority of those people don't want to face natural challenges. Look, issues, we all are afflicted by the issues that afflict us as because of the fall of Adam. Even when you're born again, you will face some issues, but issues you process and you learn how to deal with them properly. But even that, they don't want to do in those churches. Look, a cult works. In a cult, people think the same way, they act the same way, and because people dress the same way, people feel connected to one another. And if you want a sex partner, you can get it easily in a cult. Some people join cults just to have easy access to women, or if they're a woman, easy access to men. They don't want to go through the challenges of finding the right sex partner. You just want an easy sex partner without many issues. If they go to the club or to the bar, they may encounter people with STDs. They don't want that. If they go on Tinder and all of that, they may face traps. So they just want to get a sex partner easily without going through the natural challenges of figuring out whether the individual is good for them. That's why they join a cult. This is one of the main reasons why people stay in cults, because of the easy sexual access. I'm keeping it real with you. Eddie Johnson, thank you very much for your super chat donations. Very much appreciated. Thank you very much. So you have men that remain in cults, whether it's the Mormons, whether it's the Watchtower Society, or whether it's some weird Buddha cults or some I don't know what it is. They stay in those cults because a lot of the men in those cults have daughters, and those daughters are pretty and they look good, and those daughters are likely to follow what the father wants. So they want to be on good terms with the older male members so they can get one of their daughters. That's why there are a lot of men remaining in cults. And there are women who have abused their own sexuality by sleeping around all over town. And now they want to be built out and they join a church or some family cult where they can trick men to build them out by becoming a married woman. Sexual ease is the number one reason why cults work. So look at this. Eddie Johnson said it well. You won't know it's a cult until the last day. Look, there are people that are in cults because they've been tricked into cults. Now, you can be tricked in a cult and not realize it's a cult you've joined. That can happen. But if that's the case, eventually you realize, something is off here. Why are those people so static? Why are those people so rigid? If you were tricked in a cult, you will realize very quickly that something's wrong here. Maybe 10 or some 20 years later, but you will figure out something's wrong. But if you are open to self-examine, you will realize within days that something doesn't add up. Chuba, you're telling the truth. A woman who has slept around cannot be built out by a man. Only God can help her. But instead of going to God, they go to man-made cults because in a man-made cult they can have ease. They can get the relief. With Heavenly Father, you actually need to be delivered, and they have no interest in deliverance because then they have no interest in processing nor perfecting anything. They just want to be built out. Thank you for your offering on PayPal. I see a lot. Thank you very much. They're interested in real believers because they want to exploit the anointing of real believers. That's why. Well, Justin, it is possible for a believer to overcome all of that. However, it is true, the longer you were in that defectiveness, the longer it may take for you to fully process it. And here's the thing, um, you won't get all those years back, so you may have to deal with some changes too. So that's true. I hope I answered your question with that, Justin. If not, let me know. Look, cults are powerful, and when people want to avoid life, a cult is very effective. Quincy, thank you very much for your super chat donation. Very much appreciated. If someone wants to avoid life, then they need some external structure to enable them to avoid life. And a cult is a perfect thing to do it. So that's why when people join cults, they tend to discard others so that they don't have to face challenges. They think they're part of this superior group, and that's why things will go well with them. But when they see you're not part of any superior group, and things are at ease with you, now the group itself will come after you. So you'll be gang stalked by the cult. And it happens a lot. So the backlash will always happen when you forgive, process, and move forward. It will always happen. So actually, the world does not want you to forgive. The world doesn't want you to move forward. The world wants you to remain bitter and resentful so that you are sucked in their misery and you die because of it. The world really doesn't want you to forgive and move on. The world just wants you to be a polite victim, taking all the harm so that the rest is left alone. That's what the world wants. The world doesn't mean it when they tell you to move on, when they tell you to forgive. They don't mean it. Because the more people forgive and move on, the more backlash will be in society, and before you know it, you won't have any society anymore. Society depends on the death and the ruin of the victims they've selected. So they don't want the victims to forgive and become better. They don't. The world wants you to find an outlet for your hurt, whether it's a drug addiction, whether it's a promiscuous lifestyle, or you could say booty chasing for men or cock hopping for females. They prefer you to do any of that than to genuinely forgive people and move forward. Because the moment you forgive and move forward, the backlash will happen. The world wants polite victims who just shut up and take all the beatings and all the rapes, and so that everyone else is at ease. That's what the world wants. They tell you to forgive and move forward, but they don't really mean it because they will never tell you how to actually do it. Forgiveness is you. Forgiveness is you processing what happened to you, so that what happened to you won't destroy you. If someone stabbed you physically out there, you would go to the hospital. Why do you go to the hospital? So that they can um, get rid of the bacteria out of the wound, close the wound so you won't bleed to death. You don't go to the hospital to prove something against the perpetrator. No, you go to the hospital for yourself. So forgiveness is about you not being harmed and destroyed for what was done to you. So forgiveness is a natural thing to do. Oh, but here's the worst part. Now there are people neglecting and discarding you, and they become angry for what they've done to you because you won't allow it to harm you. So then when things backfire, they develop unforgiveness for what they've done to you. So now they're the ones being harmed by what they've done to someone else. So it really doesn't add up. That's true, Chuba. The moment you forgive and process, there will be explosion happening in the enemy's camp. That's true. So forgiveness is realizing that there's more for you to life. Forgiveness simply means you acknowledge there's more to life than just what was done to you. There's more out there. So you accept what happened to you. You accept that you cannot change what happened to you, but you're open for better. That's forgiveness. And once you do that, you begin to process it. The moment you process things, there will be explosions in the enemy's camp. Have you noticed that the moment you begin to process what happened to you, suddenly some of those old people appear again in your life? Look, haven't you noticed this? That the moment you begin to process the past, some of those people that were involved in the wounding suddenly appear. Either they apologize or whatever. Because the moment you begin to process things, energetically things backfired, and they don't want to have any consequences. So because they don't want the consequences, they want to shut you down. So that they want to keep you in a wounded state, so that you will end up as a sponge sucking up all their pollution. That's what they want. They have pollution as a group, and they want you to suck up all the pollution, so they are at ease. So the moment you process things, the pollution backfires on them, and they don't want this to happen. Look, being mad and upset is natural. But when you're mad and upset, you realize, there's not much I can do and I need to move on. The moment you're mad or angry, but you're realistic, that's good. Because that anger that you feel will flee away from you. It will flow out of you, and you will look for solutions. Listen, most of the people that are bitter out there are bitter because of what they've done to others. And they don't want consequences. That's why they're bitter. There are people who survived concentration camps, um, sex trafficking. There are people out there who survived very grievous circumstances and they never became bitter. Why is that? Because yes, they were angry, they were upset, but they were realistic enough to realize that there's more to life and they need to process things. But people who don't want to face life at all, they are the ones that look for an outlet for their pollution. And once they can't have an easy outlet, they're the ones becoming bitter. Most bitter people out there are people who face consequences for dumping their pollution. They just want to dump their pollution, and that's it. They don't hear anything about it anymore. Well, Justin, I doubt whether the old you was reprobate, but anyway, whether you were a reprobate or just a common sinner doesn't matter. The moment you improve, they want to put out the version of you they have in their mind. If they saw you as a piece of shit, they want to enforce this vision of you in reality so they can feel justified dumping on you. The moment evidence appears that you're not this piece of shit they envision you to be, now they want to come back to reinforce that vision. Yes, society as a whole will seek to re-victimize you the moment you're processing things. When you are in the process mode, processing stuff, society will seek to re-victimize you. If the perpetrators themselves are gone, either they pass away or they move away or they don't have access to come close to you, when society sees that you've been wounded, you're processing things, then society knows somewhere there are explosions going on. They don't want that, so they will try to re-victimize you through other means. Yes, society will seek to re-victimize you just to keep you as a good victim. So you will have people out of the blue developing dislikes and hatred towards you just because they don't want you to recover. Because the moment you fully recover, you will see society for what really is, and you become a threat to their ease and stability. Because listen, if you have a girl that was sexually molested and happened for years, it means that the community neglected her. If that woman fully recovers and processes what happened to her, she will see that the society that was in on it, and then she'll realize I can't trust society. So her very existence as a recovered woman will be a threat to society. So when she is sexually molested and she's in her teenage years, society will try to trick her into drug abuse, into alcoholism, or into some type of cock hopping attitude to turn her into a slut, so that they can later blame her for what have happened to her. That's society. When society sees that you are processing the past, they'll try to re-victimize you to hinder you processing it. Because the moment you process it, you're a threat to all of society. So, when Christ said to bless those that curse you and pray for your enemies, he was talking about you remaining in a positive state of mind to keep you out of their violence and out of their misery. That's what Christ was aiming at. It does not mean that you're going to sponsor and promote those that intend to ruin you. That's not what Christ was saying, because Christ didn't do that. Christ never promoted and sponsored the scribes and Pharisees. Christ never sponsored and promoted Herod nor Caesar. What Christ is saying is your attitude should be, I'm not going to fight them back because that's going to be a trap. I'm not going to be a good victim, endlessly allowing myself to be harmed, but I'm going to be constructive. I'm going to operate in the anointing and in the blessing and in the good. And with that, because I operate in the good, it will automatically bounce back. And when you have determined reprobates who have vowed themselves to exterminate you, then you send things back to the sender, you send confusion, and you enforce repercussions on them. So that's the difference. So you enforce the repercussions when they're determined to escalate and cause danger. That's not hating your enemy. That's just being realistic that you need to do something, or else they're going to either kill you or kill someone else as a substitute. But a lot of churches misinterpret what Christ said. They mean if someone is negative towards you, just embrace it and make them happy. That's what church is telling you to do. Church is telling you to make your abusers happy by allowing them to keep victimizing you. That's what church is telling you. That's not what Christ said. That's not what Christ said. Yeah, society wants a bunch of open, energetic wounds. That's what they want. Nicole, what you said is correct. That's how it goes. They abuse the scripture that says honor thy mother and father. They put it out of context. So if your parents are not honorable and you stop dealing with them, how society wants, society itself will push other people on you were just as defective or abusive as your original parents. That's what they do. They demand tribute from you by having you wounded. Look, the world fights back. That's what the police and the courthouses do when something bad happens. Religion bends over and allows themselves to be abused. We do neither. We are constructive. We shake the dust off our feet, so we shake off their violent influence from us. We heal, we recover, and we enforce repercussions when necessary while we're moving forward. That's what we do. There were Pharisees that became born again and got healed, but the majority of them, they were reprobate. As grown folks, you have options, and that's what you need to be happy about. Well, we have time, Nicole. Ask the anthropology related question. Ask it. So, backlashes will happen to the folks around you anytime someone is recovering. So, society or the world doesn't want anyone to recover. They don't. So, stop sharing your struggles with them because they have no intention of seeing you any better. They want you to remain in a wounded condition so that you become the sponge that sucks up all the pollution. Nicole, you can ask your question. But meanwhile, does the rest understand the importance of forgiveness and what forgiveness is and what forgiveness is not? Let me know in the live chat. Listen, Chuba is saying it well. Narcissists keep starting the same fights over and over. And here's the thing, when they start a fight and you call them out on it, they say, I don't want any discussion. So they start a fight and then they don't want you to fight back. They just want you to be open to anytime they're upset, they can just escalate. Why? Because they want you to remain wounded. That's what they want. They keep starting the same fights over and over again because they want you wounded. They don't want you to call them out on it. When you call them out on it, they say, I don't want discussion or whatever. The same thing society does with mainstream media. They start the same bullshit over and over again every 2 or 4 or 5 years. And when you ask proper questions, they call you a conspiracy theorist. Why? Because they want to keep the masses wounded. That Asian American Pacific Islander month is something that was later installed to celebrate the quote unquote diversity of the United States of America. Well, so called diversity. Yes. So individual narcissists, what individual narcissists are doing to their relatives or the sex partners, that's what society does as a whole against its members. Listen, about the United States of America, that thing is going down because the United States of America is in a sacrificial crisis, and they don't have any proper outlet anymore because victimizing blacks is not really that effective anymore. So it's going to disintegrate, and they're going to turn on each other. That's what I see happening. And I've prayed, decreed, and declared that the process of it falling apart will speed up. So instead of it taking 20 years to disintegrate and fall apart, I want it to happen in just a few years so that believers there can replace the United States of America with something much better. All right? Now they're focused on victimizing Asian Americans. Okay, that's what they're doing now, but that will not dissolve the enormous tension that's going on. I want the disintegration of the United States of America to be speed up in Christ Jesus' mighty name so that believers have more opportunity to build something better in its place. Because if the United States takes 20 years to disintegrate, there'll be 20 years of more victims that they keep making while falling apart. I want it to happen speedily so that believers can immediately take over and do better. So that's why I'm glad that the majority of my subscribers are in the United States, because that means I'm having an impact over there. So I want those of you from the United States, believers, especially black believers, to be ready to take over the wealth when the wealth transfers and to actually be active immediately. Immediately. So that's why I keep making these live streams. This live stream has been 1 hour and 17 minutes. I don't want to make this too long because my past live streams have been quite long. Nicole, I already explained that the reason why they have those history months now for Pacific Islanders and Asian Americans is to celebrate diversity. And here's another reason about Pacific Islanders. Margaret Mead was an American anthropologist who made a false image of the Pacific Islanders in United States culture, saying that the Pacific Islanders are so peaceful and all of that, while the opposite was true. So now they try to redeem that by having a special month to celebrate the actual history of the Pacific Islanders. That's what they're doing right now. They try to cover up their crimes. No, I've not forgotten about believers outside the United States. All believers in Christ should be ready to take over anytime they see an opportunity. All right. So Nicole, do you get it now? Why they have those months and why they involve the Pacific Islanders? Let me know in the live chat, please. If you're an Asian believer, listen to this. Be ready to take over anytime in Asia when you see an opportunity. If you're an Arab believer, be ready to do it in the Arabian Peninsula. If you're a white believer, be ready to do it in Europe or in America, wherever you are. So this for all believers. All right. Well, this is it for now. Keep on walking by faith, and I'll see you next time.